Hey guys, today we're going to talk about systems of equation, which is continuing from the systems of equations that we did yesterday with graphing them. Today I'm going to show you how to solve them by using the substitution method. Okay, I have written out some steps for you, for y'all that like your steps, for how it works. Okay, if you pause this video and write these down, that would be great. However, they're probably not going to make any sense to you until you work a couple. Okay, alright, so I'm going to go through the steps and I'm going to work the example as I go through the steps. Okay, so for the first step, it is get one of the two equations in slope-intercept form, or you have like y equals something. Okay, so in my example, I already have that. So I'm going to use this equation, y equals 3x, for that step. Okay, now what I do with that is step number 2. You plug that equation in for y on the other equation. Okay, so what I do is x, then you plug this in for y, plus 3x equals negative 32. Okay, so you plug, so y equals 3x, so it's the same thing. So you just take out the y and put in the 3x. So you substitute that 3x in. And then you solve that for x. So these combine. So you go to, sometimes you'll have to distribute, and sometimes you will have to combine like terms. Okay, so you will go to like solving equations like we normally do. So we have combining like terms here. There's no distributing, which is 4x equals negative 32. And then I solve for x. I divide by 4, which gives me x equals negative 8. Okay. All right. So far I've done step number 1, step number 2, and I now have the x answer. Okay. So I have x equals negative 8. All right. Let me change colors here. All right. So you're going to plug that numerical x answer, so this negative 8, into the other equation, or you can use the same one if you would like to. You have x, but go back to the original equation. Okay, alright, so I'm going to put in x. I'm going to use this equation this time. So I have x plus y equals negative 32. Okay, so I plug in for x now, negative 8 plus y equals negative 32. So I add 8, y equals negative 24. Okay, so then I have my y answer, and then I have my x and y. So all I have to do is put them as an ordered pair, which is, remember, that's your x, then your y. So you have negative 8 and then negative 24. All right, you can stop there. However, you should not have any problem making 100%, because what you need to do is take this and plug it back into your two equations. You can check yourself. So you should know then if your answers are going to be correct or not. Okay, so if I do 3 times negative 8, it's negative 24. So did this check? Yes. Okay, all right. If I do negative 8 plus negative 24, do I get negative 32? Yes, checks. So this is my solution using substitution. Okay, I know it is a lengthy process. However, once you get the hang of it, it's very simple. All right, so we're going to go through. Again, remember, first step, get one of your equations as y equals something. It may already be that way. It may not be. Okay, you're going to plug your value for y equals into the other equation. So substitute it in to where you're left with something like this. You should only have x's. The y should be gone at that point. Okay, then solve for x. Go through this whole process, given your x value. Once you have your x value, then you take it and you plug it back in to one of the equations. And then, so you're going to solve for x first. So solve for x first. And then you're going to substitute back in and then solve for y. Now, you may ask the question, when would I use this? Okay, you're going to use this a lot of times when you have larger numbers and maybe when you don't have access to a graph, anything like that. This is my preferred method in solving equations. It may end up being yours, it may not. Okay, all right, but look at your numbers, -8, -24. It's going to really be hard for you to see on one of your small graphs. That's where these two graphs meet. If I were to graph these two equations, this should be where my two graphs meet. Okay. All right, so let's work a couple more examples together. All of these should go in your journal as we're working along, please. Okay. All right, so next example, we have 3y plus 4x equals 14, and then we have -2x plus 3 equals -3. Notice neither one has a y equals, so we have to choose one of the two to make y equals. Me personally, I'm going to choose the second one because it's already a y by itself. So for me to get it to y equals, all I have to do is move that 2x over. So y equals, and I add 2x, so it would be 2x minus 3. Okay, so I have just changed this to where it's in a y equals form. Okay, all right, so remember the first step is get a y equals. So I have done step number 1. If you want to make yourself a list of steps, go for it. Step number 1 is complete. All right, step number 2, remember, is to put this in for y here. Okay, all right, so how you do that is, now this one's going to be a little bit more complicated. You're going to do 3 times y, which is now 2x minus 3, plus 4x equals 14. Okay, this looks really long and complicated. Don't worry, don't fret, you've already done this. Okay, so the first step when we use our order of operations is parentheses, so we must distribute first. So 3 times 2x is 6x, 3 times -3 is -9. Then, of course, we still have our plus 4x equals 14. Okay, so I have distributed. Now I go to combining like terms. So I have a 6x and I have a 4x. That gives me 10x minus 9 equals 14. Then I move this over. That gives me 23. If I divide by 10, leaves me with x equals 23/10, which will go to down to 2 3/10. You're seeing those fractions that you love so much. Okay, so I have substituted in and I have solved for x. Now, here is my value for x. So if I want to go ahead and start my ordered pair, 2 3/10 is my x. We don't know y yet. Now, we are going to plug in this x into one of these two equations. I'm going to choose this one because it just looks simpler to me. You can use the other one, that is fine. Okay, but when I do that, I have y equals 2. Remember, x is now 2 3/10 minus 3. Okay, so 2 times 2 3/10 is 4 6/10 minus 3. Okay, just subtract 3 from your whole number, leaving you with 1 6/10, which will go down to 1 3/5 if you simplify it. So that is what my y is. So now I have x and y, and that is where my two systems would overlap. Okay, and then, so I've done steps 4 and 5, and then step 6 would be to take this, plug it back into these two equations. If they check and it is true for both, then you have the correct answer. Okay, all right. So far, so good. Remember to record and do all this in your journal. Okay, all right. So let's go to another example. Okay, I'm just going to choose to do this bottom one, getting it to y equals. Okay, so I'm going to move my x over, leaving me with 3y equals negative x minus 7. And then dividing by 3 on both sides will leave me y equals negative 1/3 x minus 7/3, which looks awful, but that's all right. Okay. All right, so what I have to do, remember, is this is my y now. So I have to plug it in. So we'll plug it in here. Okay, so 6, take out my y, plug in this equation, times negative 1/3 x minus 7/3 plus 5x equals 8. Alright, so the first thing I have to do is to distribute these numbers. Remember, this is like 6 over 1. When we're multiplying fractions, we just multiply the top, then multiply the bottom. So 6 times 1 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. And remember that negative sign. That's x. Now let's distribute it here. 6 times 7 is 42 over 3 plus 5x equals 8. Now before we go any further, let's simplify these out. Okay, so this is going to, 6/3 is actually 2. 42/3, if we work it out, is 14. Okay, so we have negative 2x minus 14 plus 5x equals 8. Okay, so if we combine these, we get 3x. I'm going to go ahead and put this out over on the other side. So 3x and then 8 plus 14 is 22. So then I divide. So x equals 22/3, which goes down to 7 1/3. Okay. Alright, so let's change colors. Let's go to purple. Alright, so this is my x. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in this one. Okay, so we get y equals negative 1/3. Remember, that's your x now. That's 7 1/3. If you want to leave it as 22/3, maybe easier for you to multiply here. Okay, and then minus 7/3. Okay, alright, so negative 1 times 22 is 22. 22 there. 3 times 3 is 9, making this still a negative over here. Then we got to do minus 7/3. Alright, to go any further, we got to put this into ninths. So multiply this by 3, this by 3, giving me 21 ninths. So 22 ninths minus 21 ninths. You got a negative minus a negative. So it's really like adding another one. So 22 plus 21 is 43. 43 ninths. So how many times? And it's negative. How many times will 43 go into, or 9 go into 43? That would be 4. So if we simplify that, 4 will go into 36 times. So don't forget that negative. 36, and then we have 7 ninths left. So that is my y. So my final answer would be not negative, 7 1/3, and then negative 4 7 ninths. Okay. Then if I plugged it back in to my two equations, I should see that that is the correct answer. Okay. Alright, let's quickly go through. You need to work the examples on the two foldables, only the flaps for substitution, please. And those probably don't have as many fractions as that one. And your homework is in the blue workbook that we were working in yesterday. do page 90